What's going on YouTube? It's Foster Photography here, and today I'm going to teach you a tutorial about frequency separation. Of course, it separates the skin texture and the skin tones so that way you can edit it easier. It's not a hard process, but it takes a little bit of time to sit down and figure it out. So without further ado, let's get into this tutorial. Alright, so this is the image that I'm working on, which is an image of Carrie. She's a wonderful lady, pretty model. I'll put the link in the description below so you can actually follow her on Instagram or something. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate the layer twice. I'm using a Mac, so I'm pushing Command J or Control J for the Windows. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn off this top layer, and I'm gonna go to, let's rename this to color. Or you could say low frequency, as most people call it. I'll just put, okay, there we go. And I'll just rename this one texture or high frequency. That's what they call it. Okay. So I'll go back to my color, my low frequency, and I'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And normally what I would do, these little blemishes here, I would go up high enough to get rid of them so you can't see them. 14 is normally the highest that I would go. So I'll just click OK just to show you how to do it. But you have to figure it out how you want your image to look or whatever. So here we go. So now I will turn on my texture layer, and I will go to, click on your texture layer, go to image, apply image. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to layer, color layer, and I'm gonna subtract it. Now my scale would be 2, the offset is 128. And as you can see, it's pulling all the texture back from the picture, the skin. And I will hit OK. Now, one way that you could edit this, which would be pretty cool, if you want to see the original image, you want to go back to linear light here, your blending mode. But that's not what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, we'll go back to normal. One way you can edit the skin is also you can hit the curves. And what I would do is bring it down to the blacks down and the whites up. Now you can really see the texture in your skin. So therefore you could click on your high frequency layer, which is your texture layer. I'm just going to turn my opacity to 50% for now. And you could actually go in, clone. I'm using a clone stamp is what I'm using. You can go in and, but if you mess up on this layer, you're going to have to redo this whole frequency separation over again. So I'm going to show you another way, just in case you mess it up. That way you won't have to go back through the same process again. So yeah, you just get rid of stuff that you don't want. Like you can see the little bumps on her skin. I'm just going by pretty quick because it's just a tutorial right now. Yeah, but see there how it goes away. But you have to turn the curves layer off and go back to linear light, and you can see that they're pretty much gone. If I turn this off, as you can see, the skin texture is clearing up. Now if you want to do a advanced version, well, your color layer is here. So what you could do, you could grab the mixer brush again. Here, I would set my wet to 30, my low to 30. My mix is at 36. 30, 36. Flow, I just turn my flow down to give it so it won't be so strong when I brush. And also make sure you have this checked here. Make sure it's transparent, which is here. I would click this. You don't want nothing here. So that means you clean your brush. So every time you click, it loads whatever is here, and you just move it. So I'm just gonna play here. As you can see, it's kind of, see, I can play with the, you don't want to drag your highlights into your shadows unless you just see something that you really don't like in the shadows. And you don't want to drag your shadows, see there, into your highlights. That's one thing you don't want to do. See how ugly that is? You don't want to do that. So I'm going to erase this right here, go back to my history. But yeah, you just barely go over the skin here. And you just blend the skin coloring in is what I would do. You just pick a big enough brush size to where you're just messing with that one little area. You don't want to go to the extreme, and that way you be blending highlights and coloring. You know, you don't want to blend your highlights and your shadows. Here I can kind of play around just a tad, but as you can see, what I was doing here, I'm not doing this perfect. I'm just showing you how to do it, but you're gonna have to practice yourself. So let me show you how to do the advanced, which is a little bit more better to me, because if you mess up, you don't have to go back through the process again. So what I would do, copy the layer twice, turn off this top layer. I'm going to rename it for you, low frequent and texture. Okay, so now the trick is to do the same thing again, filter blur, Gaussian blur, and I was going to use the same settings that I had. And I'm going to go back to my texture again. It's the same process as the normal apply image, which is I already have it set. Don't forget, when you go to your layer, if you're on your texture layer here, you want to go down to your low frequency or your coloring, subtract it, and 2 and 128. So, and then you want to go to, you know, linear light. Okay, now the trick to this part is you want to take your color layer, you want to duplicate that layer, but you want to add a clipping mask here, or you can hold Alt or Option. There's a little thing that pops up here. So now if you mess up, you can just erase the copy layer instead of erasing the whole thing. The texture is a little bit more tricky. So what you want to do is you want to Command J or Control J, and you want to change the linear light to normal. Then what you want to do, you want to take it and you want to create a clipping mask also on there. There you go. So now, since you have it separated, you can click on your low frequency and you can just kind of work on it. So if you mess it up, there it is. You don't have to go through the same process again. Also, with the texture layer, I'm gonna go back to my clone stamp, and I have it separated like these little areas here. Also, before you clone stamp, make sure it's on current layer when you're on your texture. So that way, because if you're not, it's gonna do this like it just did me just a second ago. There you go. So before you do it, make sure you are on current layer, and you just clone it out, or whatever you like to use, patch tool, clone tool. I just like the clone stamp because it gives me, I feel like I have more control, kind of. I'm actually gonna boost up my opacity just a tad. You don't want to have it completely at 100%, because if you do, you're gonna have artifacts, and you really don't want to have something like that in your image, because it can make it look terrible. But yeah, as you can see, it just little stuff like that can make your picture look so much better. Now I'm gonna kind of blend this in on my low layer again, just to be playing around again. And I'm gonna go back to my texture layer here. See, I can just get rid of all this. I'm doing this pretty quick so that way you can you know that it actually works, and you can see me getting rid of the actual texture in this the unwanted texture in the skin that you don't want. So when you get up to areas like here, it takes a little bit of time, so that's why you can use the patch tool or whatever you want to use. I'm actually going to tone this down just a little bit here. Like really, it's really bright. It's just where I had the lighting set up. I actually used a Canon 5D Mark III with the FlashPoint Xplor 600. You know, that's ugly. And it works actually pretty good. I didn't use a reflector or anything. That's probably why I have shadow here, because all the light is coming from this angle. I just wanted to tone it down just a little bit so we can see what I'm doing. You know, so yeah, you go back and you can just go through, go back to my mixer brush and start painting it again with a, you just want enough to just paint it right there. And it takes a while to get used to doing, but once you get it, it's pretty simple. You just have to sit down and play with it however you want your image to look. I actually have the final image on my Instagram, which is Fossil Photography on my Instagram, so you can actually see how I actually edited it when it was, you know, the final image that I did. I mean, it's really simple, but look how far the picture has come just for just that little bit. So, excuse me. But just that little bit came out really good. Also, yeah, just take your time with your image and then you can play around with it. I may put the final retouch at the end of this video. So I want to thank you guys for coming out and checking out the little tutorial. If you have any questions or anything like that, just write me. Put it in my comments below and let me know what you think. If you need any help, I can show you or I can talk to you about doing it again. So I want to tell everybody thank you and have a good day.